You were told Vikings had no law, that without kings they lived by chaos and blood. The truth is darker. Their justice didn't lock you away. It erased you from the world. No king stood above the Vikings to decide guilt or innocence. No crown, no royal court, no prisons waiting behind stone walls. And yet, their world did not collapse into chaos. Order existed. Justice existed. But it was sharp, public, and unforgiving. In the Viking Age, law was not written in books. It lived in memory. It was spoken aloud, remembered word for word, and enforced by the community itself. If you broke the law, there was no state to hide behind. There was only your reputation, your family, and the judgment of everyone you knew. This is where the modern myth begins to crack. We imagine Vikings as wild raiders, ruled only by strength and violence. But that image hides a truth that made their society possible. The Norse were obsessed with law. Without it, survival in their harsh world would have been impossible. Their justice system did not remove violence. It controlled it. Every free person was bound by law, whether they were a powerful chieftain or a poor farmer. And once a year, sometimes more, they gathered at a place called the Thing. The Thing was not a courtroom in the modern sense. It was an open-air assembly. No walls, no guards. Just people, weapons at their sides, listening in silence. Disputes were brought forward. Accusations were spoken aloud. And the law was recited from memory by a single man. He was called the law speaker. The law speaker held no army and no throne. His power came from knowledge. He was expected to recite the entire law code, word for word, over a cycle of years. If he misspoke, the law itself could fracture. Memory was authority. At the Thing, anyone could bring a case. Murder, theft, broken oaths, insults that crossed the line. And in Viking society, words mattered. A public insult could destroy a man's honor just as surely as a blade. But here is the part most people miss. The goal of Viking justice was not punishment. It was balance. When a man was killed, the system did not automatically demand blood. Instead, it demanded compensation. This payment was called vergild, literally man price. Every person had a value, calculated by rank, gender, and social standing. Killing a wealthy landowner cost more than killing a poor laborer. Killing a slave cost almost nothing. Harsh, but predictable. If the killer paid the vergild, the feud was supposed to end. The family accepted the payment. Honor was restored. Violence stopped, at least in theory, because refusing payment was also a choice, and that choice led to blood feuds that could last generations. This is where Viking law revealed its darker edge. The law did not stop vengeance. It tried to contain it. If you rejected compensation, you accepted responsibility for what followed. But there were crimes that could not be paid away. Some acts shattered trust so completely that the community removed the offender entirely. This was outlawry. To be declared an outlaw was worse than death. An outlaw had no legal protection. Anyone could kill them without consequence. They could not own land. They could not seek shelter. Helping an outlaw was itself a crime. The most severe sentence was full outlawry. You were erased. Imagine what that meant in a world of brutal winters and scattered settlements. No King's Road, no safe cities, just forests, mountains, and the knowledge that every face you met might be your executioner. Outlawry turned society itself into the weapon. And yet, even this had rules. Outlawry had to be declared at the Thing. Witnesses were required. Procedures mattered. If a case was mishandled, the verdict could be challenged. Law was sacred, even when it destroyed you. But justice did not only exist at great assemblies. It lived inside daily life. Oaths were everything. To swear an oath was to bind your honor, your family, and your future. Breaking an oath did not just make you a liar. It made you unreliable, dangerous. A man who could not be trusted with words could not be trusted at all. Witnesses played a central role. There were no forensic investigations, no evidence labs. Truth was established by testimony, reputation, and ritual. In some cases, the accused could clear themselves by oath swearing. They would gather supporters, men willing to swear that they believed the accused was innocent. These oath helpers staked their own honor on his word. If the accused later proved guilty, all of them were disgraced. This created a brutal filter. Only men with strong reputations could find support. Those already suspected were exposed. But when words failed, the gods were asked to judge. Trial by ordeal existed in the Viking world, especially after Christian influence began to spread. Hot iron, boiling water. The belief was simple. If you were innocent, the gods would protect you. Most did not survive these tests unscathed. And yet, despite the violence, Viking law offered something rare for its time: a voice. Even women, though limited by status, could bring cases. A woman could demand compensation for assault. She could initiate divorce. She could reclaim property if mistreated. This was not equality, but it was recognition. Slaves had almost none. Justice reflected power, not fairness. Still, what held the system together was shame. Public judgment mattered more than force. A man declared dishonorable lost trade partners, marriage prospects, and allies. Violence followed dishonor, not the other way around. This is why kings were not necessary at first. Power was distributed across families, alliances, and reputation. Chieftains led because people followed them, not because law demanded obedience. If a chieftain abused the law, followers could abandon him. Leadership was conditional, but this balance did not last forever. As wealth increased and territories expanded, law alone could not contain ambition. Powerful families manipulated verdicts. Feuds escalated beyond control. The thing became a battlefield of influence rather than fairness. Slowly, kings emerged, not as creators of law, but as enforcers. They claimed the right to execute, to imprison, to collect fines for themselves instead of the injured. Justice shifted from community balance to royal authority. Order was no longer negotiated, it was imposed, and yet the old system never fully disappeared. Even under kings, things continued to meet. Laws were still spoken aloud. Memory still mattered. The Viking sense of justice, rooted in honor and consequence, lingered beneath the crown. So the next time Vikings are dismissed as lawless barbarians, remember this: they built a society where no one stood above the law, because the law stood inside everyone. It demanded participation, memory, courage. Break it, and the punishment was not a cell or a sentence. It was exile from the world itself. And in a land of ice, iron, and long nights, that was the harshest justice imaginable.